The sports world often looks for legends in the rafters, in the history books, or in the retired jerseys of those who have come and gone. But sometimes history isn't found in the past. It is written in real time, on the red clay of Rome, by a 20-year-old with a left-handed forehand and the weight of a nation on her shoulders. We are witnessing something that has quite literally never happened before. Not since the dawn of the Open era in 1968, not in the 58 years that have followed, and not in the nearly century-long history of the Internazionale BNL d'Italia has a player from the Philippines stood where Alex Eala is standing right now. If you had checked the headlines just 7 days ago, you would have seen a very different story. You would have seen a young athlete dismantled in Madrid, a 60-minute exit that felt like a ceiling being reached. The critics were loud. The internet was unforgiving. They said her game didn't belong on European clay. They said the dream was over before it truly began. But today, the conversation has shifted from can she belong to how far can she go? Because in the span of 3 days, Alex Eala didn't just win matches. She exorcised demons. She faced the very player who broke her heart in Auckland months ago, fell behind early, and then chose to suffer until she succeeded. The statues surrounding the Pietrangeli court have seen it all. They've seen the greats of the 70s, the dominance of the 90s, and the evolution of the modern game. But on Friday afternoon, they saw a flag they hadn't seen in a main draw win twice. This isn't just a sports story. This is a story of a 58-year silence being broken. This is a story of a young woman walking past the Vatican, seeing the Philippine flag, and realizing that her journey isn't just her own. It's a full-circle moment for her family and her country. We are talking about a live ranking jump to number 38 in the world, making her the most successful left-handed player on the WTA Tour in 2026. The world of tennis is stunned. But if you've been paying attention, you know this wasn't an accident. This was a calculated, gritty, and historic arrival. Today, we are going deep into the Roman clay to uncover how Alex Eala turned a Madrid nightmare into a Roman holiday that the Philippines will never forget. We are breaking down the stats, the mental shifts, and the looming shadow of a world number 2 opponent that stands between Eala and the unthinkable. This is a definitive analysis of a historic week in Rome. To understand the magnitude of what Alex Eala is doing right now, we have to go back to May 1st, 2024, in Madrid. In sports, momentum is everything, and 7 days ago, Eala had none. She was coming off a bruising encounter with Elise Mertens, a match that lasted just 60 minutes. 6-2, 6-1. It wasn't just a loss, it was a demolition for a player who thrives on rhythm and grinding out points. Being ushered off the court in an hour is a psychological blow that many never recover from in the same season. The tennis Twitter echo chamber did what it does best. It began the autopsy of a career that is barely 20 years old. They questioned her surface specialist credentials. They wondered if her success in Dubai was a fluke of fast courts and favorable bounces. They claimed the European clay would expose her lack of slide and her defensive liabilities. Eala's response was not a social media statement or a defensive interview. She simply withdrew. She pulled out her scheduled warm-up tournament, packed her bags, and flew straight to the Foro Italico. She chose silence and work over noise and excuses. And when she arrived in Rome, she wasn't just walking into a tournament. She was walking into a void. Since 1930, the Italian Open has been a cathedral of the sport. Since 1968, the Open era has allowed the best of the best to compete for glory on these courts. And all that time, through decades of talent emerging from Asia and the Pacific, no Filipino man or woman had ever won a main draw match in Rome. Not one. It is a statistic that feels impossible given the global nature of the sport. But it was a reality that Eala carried onto the court on Wednesday, May 6. Her first-round opponent was Magdalena Frech, the world number 45. Frech is a seasoned veteran, a player who understands the nuances of clay and knows how to manipulate the ball in heavy conditions. On paper, it was Frech's match to lose. But Eala came out like a player possessed. She took the first set 6-0. It was a statement of intent that echoed through the grounds. Though she lost the second set 3-6 and found herself in a dogfight in the third, she didn't blink. After 2 hours and 7 minutes on a rain-affected heavy court, Eala closed out 6-4. That single win ended the 58-year drought. The WTA's own editorial desk. The official record keepers who have chronicled the careers of Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova had to draft a sentence they had never written before. The first main draw win by any Filipino in the Open era at the Italian Open. But history is a funny thing. It demands repetition to be believed. A single win can be dismissed as a fluke or a bad day for an opponent to prove she belonged. Eala had to do it again, and the draw gave him the most poetic yet brutal opportunity possible. A second-round rematch with Wang Xinyu. For Eala, Wang Xinyu wasn't just the 31st seed or the world number 32. She was the ghost of Auckland. 4 months earlier, in the semifinals of the Auckland tournament, Eala was on the verge of a dream final. She led, she fought, and she eventually crumbled in a 5-7, 7-5, 6-4 heartbreak. That loss had defined the early part of her 2026 season. It was a what-if that hung over her. When they stepped onto the Roman clay on Friday, it looked like history was repeating itself. Wang jumped to a 3-0 lead in the first 15 minutes. The Madrid hangover seemed real. The Auckland trauma seemed present. The critics looked like prophets. And then Eala stopped letting the narrative write itself. What followed was a masterclass in what Eala calls a suffering zone. She didn't try to out-hit Wang with power. She out-suffered her. She embraced the physical discomfort of the long rallies. She used her left-handed serve to pull Wang off the court, recording 0 double faults, a staggering statistic for a high-pressure match on clay. She won 6 of the next 7 games to take the first set 6-4. She didn't let up in the second, closing it out 6-3 in an hour and 26 minutes. The head-to-head was leveled. The ghost was exorcised. But more importantly, the data began to tell a story that the mainstream press could no longer ignore. In 2026, Eala has recorded 16 match wins across 10 tournaments. According to the WTA, that is more than any other left-handed player in women's tennis this season. Not just among Filipinos, not just in Asia, in the world. She has become the most effective lefty on the tour, a tactical nightmare who is now seeing a live ranking jump to number 38. Beyond the court, there is a cultural weight to this run that transcends tennis. Between matches, Eala shared a story with the Associated Press that has since gone viral across Filipino communities worldwide. While walking through the streets of Rome, she passed a building flying the Philippine flag. She remarked to her team, "We really are everywhere." She later discovered that the building was the embassy of the Philippines to the Vatican, and in a full-circle moment, she learned her great-grandmother had worked there decades ago. This isn't just about a 20-year-old hitting a yellow ball. It's about a young woman retracing her family's footsteps in the Eternal City, while simultaneously carving a path for an entire nation. When the Associated Press describes her as a worldwide sensation among the large Filipino diaspora, they are acknowledging that Eala is playing for more than just ranking points. She is playing for the millions of Filipinos who have never seen themselves represented on this stage. But the road only gets steeper from here. Waiting in the third round is Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, a player who just dispatched Maria Sakkari with the clinical efficiency of a machine. Rybakina is the ultimate gatekeeper. She has a 24-2 record in completed WTA 1000 matches. When she wins the first set, she is on a 12-match opening round win streak. She is, for all intents and purposes, the favorite by a landslide. However, Eala is no longer the player who lost in 60 minutes in Madrid. She is a player who has learned to weaponize the surface. She is arriving in Rome with the momentum of a history maker. If she beats Rybakina, she becomes the first Filipino in history to reach the round of 16 in Rome. She would be only the second woman representing an Asian country to claim a top 5 win at this event. The other? Rybakina herself. As we look toward Roland Garros on May 24th, the narrative has flipped. Eala is no longer a promising junior or a regional star. She is a borderline seed for a grand slam on a surface that people said would destroy her. She has shown that she has the mental fortitude to handle the Auckland ghosts and the physical durability to outlast veterans. The juniors watching in Manila today aren't looking at a highlight reel of a foreign player. They are looking at a living, breathing blueprint. They are seeing that the suffering zone is where history is made. Eala's week in Rome is a reminder that in sports, The greatest victories aren't always about the trophies. They are about the silence you end and the walls you tear down. She has ended a 58-year silence for her country. She has proven that we really are everywhere. And now, she has proven that she belongs exactly where she is, at the top of the game. What we are witnessing is the birth of a new reality for Asian tennis. For decades, the roadmap for success was often dictated by training academies in Florida or Spain. And while Eala has utilized those resources, her spirit remains fiercely tied to the 6,300 islands she represents. This week in Rome has been a masterclass in psychological resilience. Think about the pressure of being the first. It is a heavy mantle to carry. When you are the first to do something in nearly 60 years, every loss feels like a failure of a legacy, and every win feels like a relief rather than a celebration. But Eala has managed to turn that pressure into a diamond. Her comment about staying in the suffering zone are perhaps the most telling aspect of her evolution. In modern tennis, there's a lot of talk about easy power and shorter points. But clay doesn't give you anything for free. It requires a willingness to be uncomfortable, to slide when your lungs are burning, and to hit that extra ball when your opponent thinks the point is over. By embracing that discomfort, Eala has neutralized the power advantage of players like Wang Xinyu. She has made herself unknockout able. And then there is the technical side of her 2026 run. Being the winningest left-hander on the tour is no small feat. The left-handed advantage is well documented in tennis. The way the serve curves away from a right-hander's backhand, the different angles of the forehand cross-court. But many lefties struggle to find consistency. Eala has found a way to marry that natural advantage with a baseline stability that is rare for her age. The fact that she recorded 0 double faults against a top 40 opponent like Wang shows a level of technical discipline that suggests her ceiling is much higher than anyone predicted. Looking ahead to the clash with Elena Rybakina, we have to be realistic about the challenge. Rybakina is one of the most dominant frontrunners in the history of the modern game. Her serve is a weapon of mass destruction, and her flat ground strokes can take time away from even the fastest players. For Eala to win, she cannot just suffer. She will have to be aggressive. She will have to take the game to the world number 2 and show that she isn't just happy to be in the third round. But regardless of the outcome of that match, the mission of this week has already been accomplished. Alex Eala has changed the expectations. She has moved from being a participant to being a contender. When the French Open begins on May 24th, the entire draw will be looking at her name with a new level of respect, and perhaps a bit of fear, because they know that if they get into a dogfight with the girl from Manila, she is more than happy to stay in that suffering zone until she comes out the other side with the win. The story of Rome 2026 isn't just about the scores of 6-4, 6-3. It's about the walk past the Vatican. It's about the great-grandmother whose hard work in a foreign land paved the way for a descendant to return as a hero. It's about the fact that history isn't just something we read. It's something we do. And right now, Alex Eala is doing it better than anyone could have imagined. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into a historic moment in sports. If you want to stay updated on Alex Eala's journey through the French Open and the rest of the 2026 season, make sure you are subscribed. We will be breaking down every match, every stat, and every milestone as it happens. The world of tennis is changing, and we are here to document every second of it. Before you go, I want to hear from you in the comments. Can Alex Eala pull off the ultimate upset against Elena Rybakina? Is she a future top 10 player, or is this the peak of her run? Give us your boldest predictions below. The most insightful comment will be pinned as soon as the result drops. Don't wait until after the match to be on the right side of history. Get your thoughts on the record now. We'll see you at the next breakdown. Stay focused, stay gritty, and remember, we really are everywhere.